In this video, we are going to learn how to do the whip stitch, also known as the overcast stitch. This stitch is often used for finishing hems and occasionally for finishing off raw edges. But for this video, we're going to fold the fabric as if it's a hem. What you will need is your sample piece of fabric, a single threaded needle, so that's one knot in one thread. That's what I mean by a single threaded needle. Scissors, and a pen and your sewing pins. So the first thing we want to do is we want to fold our fabric to simulate a hem. So I'm going to fold my fabric in half, just like this. I'm going to kind of finger press it. And then I'm going to fold it back to the halfway point and fold it again. So I have this nice, sorry, that got very fuzzy. Let's try that again. So I folded it over half, finger pressed it so I have a little line there, opened it up, take my raw edge, fold it to that little crease there that I can see, and fold it over. So now I have a folded edge here that I'm working with. I'm going to pause the video real quick and press this on the iron because that will actually make this sit a lot smoother and flatter and be a lot easier to work with. So now that I've pressed my fold, it's a lot crisper and easier to see. So for the whip stitch, we want to take our threaded needle, and oftentimes we will start on one end and we want to hide our knot. There's a couple of places you could hide it. You could hide it right underneath here. I don't really recommend that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to slip my needle between these two layers and come out right on that crease. I already have a knot in my thread. I'm just going to pull this through. And now my knot is hidden. I almost forgot. Before I start stitching, I need to pin this in place. So I'm going to do my pins this way so the sharp pointy bits are facing away from me and I'm less likely to stab myself. Just like that. Alternatively, you can also put your pins in this direction and that gets them very much out of your way. So I'll do a combination of the two. So now what we're going to do, a whip stitch is something that's done very quickly. Remember on the running stitch how we went down and back up? Well, we're going to do the same concept here, but we're going to catch both of these layers. So I'm going to go down, go down on this side of the fold and come up right on the edge of that fold and pull. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to scoot down a little bit, go down in the fabric side, not the fold, go down beside, go down and back up in the folded edge. Okay? Keeping my stitches about the same length apart. Okay? And see how these stitches are coming out at a diagonal? That means you're doing it the right way. It may feel a little odd because my needle's actually going the opposite direction that these stitches are landing, but that's fine. Oop, got an extra piece of thread. So you just go down and back up. You do want your stitches to be the same length apart going down your fold, but you don't want big giant stitches. So you don't want to like go way out here and come out here. Okay? We want on the back side to have these smaller stitches. The smaller these are, the better because the less visible they are on the outside of the garment. So if this was a garment piece that we were doing, this would be considered the right side of the fabric. This is what's going to be on the outside of the body, and this is what we would see. This is the inside of the fabric, or the underside. We would call this the wrong side of the fabric. Okay? So for this stitch, we're working from the wrong side of the fabric. We just keep going all the way down till we get to the end. And you just keep whipping and whip it good. Sorry, couldn't help myself. That one was just lying there to be taken. As I come to those pins that were uh, pinned opposite the direction of my fold, I'm just pulling them out of my way. Because once it's stitched, it doesn't need the pins anymore. And see how even my stitches are? Do your best to try and keep your stitches even. Now I'm kind of stitching down. That just makes it a little easier for me. You can also stitch across like this. For some reason, I just find it easier on the whip stitch if it's easier for me to take smaller stitches if I hold it this direction. But that's me. Everybody has slightly different ways of sewing, and you'll find what works for you. Just try different things. If something feels weird or uncomfortable the way you're holding it, you don't have to do it that way. Just try something else and see what works. Just because this is how I am demonstrating it in the video doesn't mean that this is the best method for how you should stitch. Ooh, caught my pin. I'm just going to pull that one out because it's not really necessary at this point. I'm almost to the end. When you take your whip stitches, I do want you to go all the way across your sample piece. So one of the reasons this is also called the overcast stitch is because you do this same motion of going around and over, because these stitches are going over this folded edge. You do the same similar motion along the outside edge. Okay, I'm at the end here, so I'm gonna actually tie off the other way. And as I go down and back up, I'm only catching the fold. I don't want to catch the opposite side. So come up through that loop, pull it tight, and do it again, going another direction. Loop, 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 and pull tight. Clip my threads, and that is the whip stitch. It holds this edge together, which is great because if this is a hem and the bottom of your shoe tries to catch this, it's not going to move, which is great. So this is what it looks like from the wrong side or the inside of the garment. And this is what it looks like from the right side or the outside of the garment. Some of my stitches ended up being at a slight angle, but they really should go up and down. That's it. That's the whip stitch.